Is red flag Ronnie the biggest red flag so far in the Kiely Rodni case? Is good old red flag Ronnie made up? Is it a fake person? And whoever they are they actually involved? So, if you're not aware of who red flag Ronnie is, I highly recommend you pop across to Ryan Upchurch's channel and all should become clear. So there is a YouTuber called Ikid Mel. He had a person, a member of the public, who claimed to be called Ronnie, call in to his live show on his YouTube channel. So Ryan Upchurch then speaks with Ikid Mel and this red flag Ronnie guy. Ryan clearly found the guy to be very dodgy, and weirdly, Ikid Mel did not find red flag Ronnie shady. After Ryan has the conversation with Ronnie on Ikid Mel's channel, Ikid Mel has this character on again, and he shows his face. Whether or not the guy that appeared with Ikid Mel is actually called Ronnie, I can't be sure, but there's something very weird about a person that inserts themselves into a missing person's case in the way that this guy did. But what I will say is I'm with Ryan on this one. I do find Ronnie very, very suspicious. Red flags are flying. So red flag Ronnie told Ikid Mel that he had two cousins that attended the exact same party as Kiely Rodni on the 5th of August. He didn't say who his cousins were, but he claimed that they saw Kiely Rodni throughout that night on the 5th of August, and she seemed very intoxicated. Whether or not this guy really does have two cousins that attended the party, who knows? Who could say? But red flag Ronnie also claimed to have been a partier in his younger days, and he also said that in 2016 he partied in the exact same location. Now, that might not sound too strange, but it does get a lot stranger. This Ronnie guy seemed to know a lot about this party, because Ronnie does seem to know a lot about Sammy and about her friendship with Kiely. He seemed to know a lot about what drugs were consumed at these parties. How come he would know what was going on at these parties nowadays if he hasn't attended a party in years? So, from this initial call that Ikid Mel had with red flag Ronnie, a lot of people grew very suspicious of this Ronnie. Some people have said Ikid Mel has faked this whole thing, and maybe one of his friends called into his show. So moving on in this very bizarre story, Ryan Upchurch then has a young man contact him via Instagram. This young guy claims to be a local from Truckee, and he claims to want to help Ryan to find this Ronnie guy. Now, Ryan Upchurch released a video where he played you this phone call with this young guy who, as I said, contacted Ryan via Instagram. At one point during their phone call, Ryan's YouTube phone, as he calls it, runs out of battery. He gets it charging, and he also tells this young guy that he has 8 phones. This young guy responds to this part of their conversation by saying, "I'm just a normal," and then there was a very noticeable pause, a normal, and another pause, 21-year-old. So let me say that again. "I'm just a normal," pause, a normal, pause, 21-year-old. If you really are a 21-year-old, why are there so many pauses? And why on earth would any young guy need to say, "I'm just a normal 21-year-old"? Really? Now, as a statement analyst, whenever I see the words just and normal in the same sentence from someone I think is deceptive, massive red flags start to fly. So by this guy saying that he's just a normal 21-year-old, he's trying to convince Ryan Upchurch that he's just a normal guy. He's not guilty of anything. And he's just a normal 21-year-old, like any other normal 21-year-old. Think of when you last told someone your age. Did you say, "I'm just a normal 30-year-old, I'm just a normal 45-year-old, I'm just a normal 60-year-old"? No, I very much doubt that you did, unless you were trying to cover up something a bit sus. Often when I've analysed statements of guilty people, the word normal often crops up when someone that has a guilty conscience or has guilty knowledge of a crime is trying to minimise their involvement or their knowledge by saying how normal they are. Think to Candace Bly if you are aware of the case of missing Tennessee girl Summer Wells. Her mum described the day she disappeared as just a normal day. They were just doing normal things. There's nothing normal about a 5-year-old girl disappearing off the face of the earth in a 2 to 5 minute time frame from her family home when her grandma, her mother, and apparently her 3 brothers were in the house. So there is a very good example of what I think is a guilty person, or at least a person with guilty knowledge. Sly Bly, aka Candace Bly, describing the day that her 5-year-old daughter disappeared as just a normal day. Clearly Candace was trying to convince Chris McDonough from the interview room that it was just a normal day. Nothing abnormal happened. Other than her 5-year-old daughter disappearing off the face of the earth. Now, whenever I've heard a parent of a missing child that's innocent speak, they don't need to convince us of normality. They don't need to tell us what a normal day it was when their child disappeared. More often than not, when I've read statements from guilty people, they always try and normalise the most abnormal of days. So when this guy says, I'm just a normal 21-year-old, the sentence doesn't flow out of his mouth like it should do. There are 2 different pauses. He first of all says, I'm just a normal, and then there's a noticeable pause. He then says, a normal 21-year-old. So that's, I'm just a normal 21-year-old. So why couldn't he have just said, I'm a 21-year-old? I'm 21 years old. Why did he have to say just? And why did he have to say normal? Especially normal. I find that a massive, huge red flag. As I said, this was all said in relation to Ryan's mobile or cell phone running out of battery. Ryan then claims to have 8 cell phones, and this guy follows up by saying, I only got 2 phones. Now, just to say, in the UK, if you have 2 phones, you're often seen as a bit of a dodgy person, perhaps somebody that has a second mobile for nefarious reasons. But often in the UK, we have a bit of a joke that if you have 2 phones, you get up to illegal activity on the second phone. Now, obviously, I don't know if that's true, but I just wanted to highlight that. Interestingly, Ryan Upchurch then asks this guy if he knows how old Ronnie's Instagram is. The guy seems to get a bit flustered, makes out that he's going to check, and then doesn't check and tries to control the narrative. He then says it's beside the point, as in how old Ronnie's Instagram is, even though he was about to check. He then doesn't check how old the Instagram is and tries to sidetrack Ryan. This guy must be a bit stupid if he thinks he can outsmart Ryan Upchurch, because from what I've seen, Ryan Upchurch is the best and the most outstanding internet sleuth I've ever seen. At least with Upchurch, he tells it like it is. He doesn't beat around the bush. He doesn't say what everybody else is saying for clout, for clicks and views. It's just a shame that not everybody else in the true crime community is as genuine and kind as Ryan. Something else was said during this call that I thought was a huge red flag. At approximately the timestamp of 5:30, Ryan Upchurch asks this guy, what does Sammy think about him? And interestingly, the guy responds, what? And you need to hear his massive tone of voice change. His voice completely changes. He's clearly been caught out and he's quite worried by what he's just been asked. Because of his response of what? Upchurch asks the question again. What Sammy think about him? And interestingly, this shady guy replies, I don't know. I don't. I don't know. Does he know? Doesn't he know? That's quite a lot of I don't knows for my liking. Now, just going back to this last sentence, because he can't just say, I don't know Sammy, think about it, the answer there could have been a lot shorter. This guy could have just said, I don't know Sammy. Not I don't know, I don't. I don't know anything about Sammy. I think you do know something about Sammy. And I think you're a liar. Now, this is quite a confusing story. I appreciate if you've not been following the whole red flag Ronnie, this probably isn't making full sense. Go across to Ryan Upchurch's channel if you haven't already and catch up on his last 5, 6, 7 videos because all should become clear. Something else I want to say, when red flag Ronnie called in to Mel's channel, in my opinion, the caller used an app to distort his voice. The voice definitely did not sound normal, and I do not feel whoever was on the call to Mel used their genuine voice. Now, whoever called in to Ryan, I don't feel used a voice-changing app. Whether or not Red Flag Ronnie is a real person, I obviously don't know. But what I do think is that whoever they are, they've inserted themselves into a missing persons case in a very bizarre manner. If they really are using fake accounts and they're changing their voice and they're using voice changing technology to call in to YouTubers, clearly huge red flags are flying for Red Flag Ronnie. Now obviously guys, this Red Flag Ronnie could just be messing with everybody's heads. Just go across to Ryan to get more info because Ryan has done so much research on this Red Flag Ronnie and it's all starting to look very, very dodgy and very, very suspicious. I have to say there is a lot more to this story. I haven't even touched on the walking and talking red flag that is Zana May. I will be making future videos to give you my views on her. If you're not aware who she is, again, pop across to Ryan Upchurch's channel and all should become clear. So guys, please share your thoughts with me. Have you heard about Red Flag Ronnie? And if not, what do you think about what I've just explained? Hopefully it made some sense, and if it doesn't make complete sense, like I said, go and check out Ryan's channel. It's called Ryan Upchurch and look for the videos called Red Flag Ronnie. So guys, I'd love to know what you think about Red Flag Ronnie. I think he's very dodgy. Whoever he is, he gets a massive red flag from me. Bye for now.